All right, so today we are going to play with this bed that Dollar Tree sells in the dollhouse furniture. I'm not sure who they think is going to sleep on this because the sleeping area is just, it's like 3 1/8 inches long by about 2 3/8 inches wide. So it's not a bed. And when I bought this, quite frankly, I had intended to remake it into a doll bed. But it's been sitting on my desk for a couple of days because I've been planning to start filming. And I saw something else in this that I think is going to be better than a bed. So stay tuned and see how I turn this into this. I think this is quite the transformation. So stay tuned and see how this happened. All right, so in the intro you saw a sneak peek of where this ends up. So, and you also saw the measurements. I don't know how Dollar Tree thinks this could be a bed. Now, if you were doing a store, a miniature store where you were doing bedding, maybe you could use this to display bedding like they do in stores where they have the really short bed. But unless your doll is going to curl up or you're going to use it for a pet bed, it's not going to work. So my first thing I'm going to do is I need to get these ends off. So I am going to go get my heat gun and we're going to see if we can get these off. All right, as you saw in that sped up portion, that took way too long. This one I did do with this saw and decided that was nuts. So as you saw for this one, I got out the big miter saw. I don't know what kind of glue Dollar Tree used on this thing, but yeah, I'd like to get a hold of it. So I need to finish cleaning these up and get that all chipped off. And when that's done and these look presentable, I'll be back. Thank goodness we're just planning to throw this away. And you'll notice I got it too hot with my heat gun. So I'll be back when I get these cleaned up. All right, I got that fairly well cleaned off. There's still a little bit of glue and it's kind of rough. We may or may not need to come back and revisit this at a later step because since I'm kind of making this project up as I go, I'm not sure. The next thing I do know we need to do is, because these are different sizes because the headboard stood up above the footboard. So I'm going to rest them on the table and draw a line. This is the amount I need to cut off. And to protect my surface and everything, I am going to, first get rid of that, I'm going to use just my little miter box. I've got this for little household projects. It's not going to be a great way to hold this, but I think it's going to work. And I need to put that under the camera. Let's back you up. Whoops, let's back you up just a little bit. I think this will be better than trying to work directly on my table. I'll probably be able to protect my fingers a little more this way. And rather than have you listen to this grindy sound as I cut this off, I'm just going to cut straight down through here. When I get this cut apart, I'll come back and I'll show you how it looks. All right, so when I cut that, it was a little crooked. So what I did was I actually just took some masking tape and I taped the two pieces together, and then I was able to run them on sandpaper together and get them exactly the same size. So that's all done now. So now we have the two ends. So next we're going to create a four legs. Oops, I've still got dust. This is a very dirty project, I'm afraid. It's making a mess. So what I've got here are some craft sticks. I don't know if these are from the craft store or from the Dollar Tree, but I cut off one end straight, and I've got my easy cutter here, and I've measured down this mark. This space is 2 1/4 inches. There'll be the sizing and everything will be in the blog post, and I'm afraid I've not been really good about taking pictures as I go. I'm going to try to get better at that. I don't know why I've been having so much trouble forgetting to take pictures today, but I'm just going to cut 4 of these all the same. And then I'm going to need to turn the camera off because I know I forgot to pick up my glue. So I'm going to go get my glue and some clamps, and I'll be right back. All right, so I've got some glue, I've got my craft sticks that are cut down, and I've also got, this is a little, like a skinny stick. I got it from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to actually cut a straight end on this. I'm going to use this as a spacer because I want to make sure I'm getting these pretty much the same spot. So I'm going to put some glue, and this is just my wood glue I've been using. I'm going to put this down. And I will say I am literally making these instructions up a step at a time. All right, if you see how I use that, I just use this to give myself a spot. That way, hopefully, I will get these in the same location on all of them. I thought I was going to need to clamp them, but I don't think I will. I think they'll be fine. And I'm okay if the glue leaks out. I'll just clean it up later. Fruit fly in here, dang it. Okay, get that guy done. Off camera, I will do some more, pick these up, really get my head over them or pick them up and really make sure I've got everything lined up because I want both ends to be the same. I want these to be put in the same amount from the edge of both ends. So I'll double check this as soon as I get the camera turned off. But I am going to turn the camera off and let this glue dry, and then we will work on the next step. So I'll see you in a sec. All right, our glue has had overnight to dry. This one is a little crooked, but we're just going to go with it. We're going to ignore the fact that one leg is crooked. Next, we need to cut some pieces. I'm using these. I love these giant craft sticks. I got them at Walmart. I think they were I want to say about $8 for the pack of 45. I have used these in so many things. I love these. The only disadvantage that I find is I physically can't cut them with this. I've got to pull out the little miter saw and miter box from X-Acto because they're just too hard to cut through. But I cut 3 of them off camera. These are 5.5 inches long. Again, the measurements will be in the blog post. So we are going to glue the first 2 onto this rim. Remember, we put the legs on the outside on the curved edge of this, underneath that edge. And now these are going to go in here. And I am going to have to make sure they stay straight, but I'm going to put one there and one right there. And that is going to become the seat of our little couch. So let's get some glue. I may have to do I'll have to adjust this off camera because it's going to be really hard with the camera sitting here to get this put exactly where I want it. I do want it the whole length. And we're going to paint this, so it doesn't matter if there's a little glue seepage, we'll just wipe it off. If you want to stain the wood, which I would be concerned that these woods are different woods, so they will take stain differently. And I think with the look I'm going for with the hardwood floor, I think painted will look better. But I would be concerned about all the different types of wood we're using actually looking like the same if I tried to stain them. So now I'm going to, and then off camera I'm going to make sure this is straight. So we're going to glue that. I'm going to make sure my sides are straight and that sits, and I'm going to let that glue dry. When that glue is dry, I'll come back and I'll show you the next step. All right, first off, remember how I said I'm making this up as I go? I decided this was too big because I decided to try one of my helpers here, and that's just too deep of a couch. I want it to be a little bit shorter in depth. So first thing I did was I cut off 1/4 inch off of this last piece. That way it will fit in here. And let's see, even with padding, I'm going to want to put this forward. And one of the things I was concerned about was getting all of this glued and having it stay. But I've got these Jenga blocks, and I'm going to put, oops, I forgot to open my glue. I am going to glue in a Jenga block on each end. They're actually not Jenga, they're tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree. For $1 you get around 50 of them, I believe, and they are so handy to have. I'm going to use one on each end and kind of use it just to, it's going to do 2 things. It will give us, it'll take up space, so we make sure that we get our back of our couch glued on straight, but also it will give a little more support to these really thin pieces of wood that we're using. Because remember, this is not very thick, so that's not very much surface to use to glue it together. So I'm going to line that up with the back, do the same thing on the other end, and then by the time we put cushioning on the couch and everything, it will fit our dolls. They're able to sit on there very comfortably. Now, I'm not even going to wait for that to glue, and I'm not doing this completely straight. I'm angling this piece just a tiny bit. So I probably should let the glue dry, but I want to see how it's turning out. Put glue right there at the top edge of this, because I think that's the only place that's going to have contact. And remember, we are going to be painting this. have a wad of dried up glue on the end of my stick. I should clean that off before I glue anything else. So I'm not really concerned about too much glue, about a bunch of glue coming out, because it's going to be covered up with paint and I can wipe out some of it. It's still a really tight fit. Come on. Scoop back. Oops. Sorry about that. I hope I didn't have that all out from under the camera when I did that. All right. There we go. So now we need to let that glue dry, and then we can go on to our next step. All right, we have a seemingly huge jump forward because in editing I realized I somehow have lost 2 clips of this video. And they were the clips where I painted this. So I wanted to go over with you what I painted it with, and then we'll continue on and you'll get to see how we get to this point. So the first coat, well, first off, what we are doing, we are trying to make it coordinate with this table. This is the coffee table we did a month or so ago. I don't remember how this is going to line up with my filming schedule. And this one is getting aged a lot more because I'm probably, the further into the project I get, the more I think it's probably going to sit on the front porch, not in the house, but I may change my mind yet. I haven't decided for sure where, if this is going to be an inside couch or an outside couch. It can go either way. So, just like on that one, we put a nice thorough coat, or decent coat of Admiral Blue from Apple Barrel onto the entire frame. When that was dry, I went in and put a fairly good coat of Vanilla Cream from, this is from Anita's All-Purpose Acrylic. Those are the 2 colors that I'm using in a lot of projects. You'll notice these are colors that are running through several projects we're doing in these tutorials since I started doing the beachside bungalow. They're colors that go with the wallpapers I've chosen. They're colors that go with the color scheme I'm going to use, and by using them in different projects, I'm carrying them through so that everything is cohesive. So, just pretend that you saw this being painted and go on to the next step. Alright, first I'm going to apologize for the weird lighting. I don't know, hopefully the lighting on the video is better than it is on the previous screen. So here is our little couch frame. It's all dried, it's dried overnight. Now it's time to start the aging process. Now when we aged our coffee table, we didn't age it a whole lot. I'm going to age this a little more aggressively for 2 reasons. Number one, I might put this outside on the porch. I haven't decided, in which case I would want it more aged. And secondly, because we're not going to see the whole wood frame. We're only going to see little bits of it. So it'll make more of a statement if it's a little more aged. So I'm going to take this, and you can do as much or as little as you want. Try to keep to the places that make sense. Edges. Edges would be a place that would get worn. I'm trying to do this where you guys can see and I can still see. And a lot of these places aren't going to show because I'm still going to age them just because, in case part of a little bit shows in the end. This is an emery board from Dollar Tree, sanding block from Dollar Tree. I don't know if this one came from Dollar Tree or not. Sandpaper. Use whatever you normally like to use to do this. So I am going to turn the camera off, and I'm going to just sit here and age the crap out of this, and then when I get that done, I'll come back and show you how it looks. Alright, so we've got this all aged down. I love how this turned out. I think it is so cute. Now we're going to make the cushions. The first step, I pre-cut, because I had to kind of measure and figure this out. I cut 4 pieces of just standard foam core. They are cut each 5 inches long by 1 3/4 inches this way. And I'll put that measurement in the blog post. And I think I was off on a couple of them, so I'm going to get them glued together and then trim them so they're the same. So what we are going to do is we're going to glue them together in pairs. And I'm reduced to Elmer's school glue because I ran out of tacky glue. And this is all the store I had time to get to had. I've been very short on time the last couple of weeks. All right, I am going to, yeah, I'll have to trim that one. I'm going to glue both these together in pairs. And then I'm actually going to go get a couple of heavy books because I want to make sure that these lay completely flat. One is going to be the seat cushion and one is going to be the back cushion of our couch. And I played around with both 1 layer and 2 layers and I liked the look. I guess we can I should have showed you that before I glued them, but you see they just fit like that. And I think that's going to be very comfortable for our dolls. So I am going to make sure these are put together straight, and I'm going to set a big heavy book on it and let it dry completely. Then we'll start covering. All right, now that our glue on our foam core has dried, and this doesn't have to be perfect. This is simply the cushion, and it's going to be covered up with 2 layers of fabric. So what I have here is fabric. It's a little over 8 inches this way, and about 4 3/4, 4.5. What did I measure? I measured it a while ago. Yeah, 4.5 inches this way. The size on this one isn't particularly important because this is our underlayer. And I'm using white because I want it to be a good, it's going to soften the edges on that. This is the only reason we're putting this on. It's going to allow the foam core to look more like it's a cushion rather than a chunk of foam core. We don't even have to be really neat with our gluing. We want to be somewhat neat because it will make lumps under our final fabric if we're not careful. But we're going to be a lot more careful with our upholstery fabric than we are with this fabric. This fabric is simply an underlayment. I'm going to get this kind of towards the middle. Using any glue you've got. Like I said earlier in the project, I'm using Elmer's school glue right now because I'm out of tacky glue and I didn't have time to go anywhere other than the dollar store down the street, and this is what Family Dollar carries. At least my Family Dollar. So I'm going to, and I've been kind of playing, let's see, get that in there. I'm trying to remember what I did on the other cushion because I've glued the other cushion together and put this cover on it, and I kind of did every corner differently before I figured out what I liked best. And I think I'm actually doing this one differently. This is the layer to experiment on though, because by the time we put on our our upholstery fabric, we want to know what we're doing. That's what I should have done earlier. So I'm just gluing the corners. It's kind of like you're wrapping a present. Don't put glue on either layer. Don't put glue on what's going to be the top layer. All our glued layers are going to be hidden behind on the back sides of our cushion. And so that's why it's okay if we have enough glue that it soaks through, because this side is never going to show. Oh, that looks much better than the other cushion. Yeah, there's the camera. I'm still under the camera. Yay. We're going to want this glue to dry all the way before we put our other layer of fabric on. mainly because we don't want to be getting gluey fingerprints on the right side of our upholstery fabric. So I'm going to set that off to the side. And I've got our bench, or our couch frame. And I've got some satin Mod Podge, which I should have a palette to pour some out on. Now, since this is a painted surface, I am not going to be dipping directly into my Mod Podge container. Even though I painted this a couple of days ago, I could still get stuff into my Mod Podge. I really, anymore, I just don't risk it. I've had to throw away Mod Podge in the past because I've gotten what I thought was dry paint off on my brush and managed to get it into my Mod Podge container when I used it directly from the container. All right, I am going to coat all areas of this with this satin Mod Podge. I'm going to allow this to dry. I'm going to let the glue on the 2 cushions dry. And when that happens, I will be back and we'll put our upholstery fabric on. So I'll see you in a sec. All right, now we're going to put the upholstery fabric onto our couch cushions. And what I have here is a fat quarter of striped, it's a cotton fabric made for quilting. I actually bought this years and years and years ago when I was decorating the Harrison. This was actually in my bin of stuff I was going to use in the Harrison. And I ran into it a while back and thought this is perfect for this build. So what I've done is I've cut 2 pieces that are 8 inches by about 6. And I made sure they're lined up. That's going to be really important. So we're going to take our cushion. My glue is dry. And I'm going to put, now this is the side that is not glued onto. We're going to put that down against the fabric. Because this is stripes, I am going to have to match my stripes on my 2 cushions. So I'm going to put glue here. The first cushion, I'm just going to get glued down. And I'm going to, now try not to get any gluey fingers onto the parts of the cushion that are going to be showing. This part will be fastened against the seat, this side on each cushion. One will be fastened to here and one will be fastened to here. So those aren't going to show. The edges are going to show, the long edges are going to show, and the flat front side is going to show. Now, and I'm actually going to let this glue dry because I don't want to risk getting this crooked. So I want since it's a stripe, I'm going to be really careful about lining it up. And that's something you need to think about when you're picking your fabric for your upholstery. The scale of the design is going to matter. You don't want to get something too huge. You can get away with something a little bigger than you would for, say, if you were doing doll clothing for this size. But think about how it's going to look in scale. These stripes are fine. They'll be okay. They'll look like a nice bold stripe on the couch cushion. So they'll be good. But also I need to then make sure that they are running straight and that I match them. So I'm going to let this glue dry. When this is dry, I'll come back and we'll go on to the next step. All right, we are going to continue with this. So we're going to fold this on pretty much the way we did the white layer. Just a few changes. So I'm going to try to fold this back so that you can see and I can see both. So I'm hoping that you guys are enjoying these videos. Fold that up like that. I'm going to try and go on with this without letting it dry this time. Trying to stay under camera, but I don't think I'm doing a very good job today. All right, so we're going to fold this like this. Now remember, keep glue off of that front surface. And if you want to, you could even use some pins to hold these edges down a little bit. I should have brought a wet wipe. So we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. Oops, stay down. I'm going to put this on this part because I want to make sure that stays where I want it. There we go. Now, the thing we need to do is cover this one with its piece. And we need to make sure that our lines are going to meet up. So, yeah, that's going to be good. So this one I'm going to do just exactly the same way I just did that one. So I don't think you need to watch me do it twice. So I'm going to turn the camera off. This one I've set up a little further. I'm not sure why. I didn't really need to do that. Let's go that way. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get this one glued together, get it to that stage, let them dry, and then I'll be back. All right, our glue is pretty much dry. I wish it was a little more dry, but I need to get this finished. So we are going to attach this. Let's see how it looks first. I love it. I've already been playing around with it. It's going to go like this, and I love how this looks. I've got a little dent in my cushion. That way is better. It still matches. So we need to fix this so it doesn't fall off every time we look at it cross-eyed. And what I have is I have this double-sided tape. Got this at Hobby Lobby. You can get it at Joann's, you can get it at Michael's, probably any craft store that has like paper crafting. It's over by the card making, paper crafting, that kind of stuff. So it is a permanent, and it's a really strong permanent tape. But I think, given that this is fabric and this has been Mod Podged, pretty sure I'll be able to get it off if I need to in the future. So you lay it down. It's got a paper backing on it. And then you kind of pick at it until you get that liner, that backing off. And then it is super, as you can see, I can pretty much pick that up. So I'm going to put this like this. This was the more straight edge on this one. Kind of push it down. And now I'm going to make sure I've got, yeah, I want this side down. So I'm going to put a piece of this on there. And this tape is not super expensive. It's really handy if you do paper crafting or even just a little bit of paper crafting. It is a really handy product. Whoopsie, a little too long. With paper, it is definitely a permanent hold. There we go. Now I'm going to have to turn this towards me so I can line up the stripes since I want this to actually match. So there we go. Now our dolls can have a seat, enjoy a beverage on this warm day, and there we go. I'll have some pictures in the blog post. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you liked it, push the like button. Leave me a comment. That really helps YouTube to know that they should show it to other people, and that helps my channel to grow. If you haven't subscribed and you enjoy my content, consider hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell so you know when I do put up another video. And I will talk to you later. Bye.